Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Castlevania Legacy of Darkness commentary. Even on the I Know What I'm Doing playthrough, the Castle Center is taking more than one part, and that makes me sad, because I managed to swing the villa in exactly one part. But, I guess I have to spend a little bit more time on the Castle Center than I would like. It does involve a lot of running back and forth, even when you know what you're doing.
So they said one hit will ignite the magical nitro. That means one getting hit by an enemy. Does it also mean using an attack as well, or just getting hit?
I don't know if you can use your main attack while you're with the nitro, while you're holding the nitro, but I know you can use your sub weapons.
Okay. So I'm imagining having the holy water nukes helps a lot for that section. Then,
yes,
I would figure.
But the other thing, though, is that like most of the enemies despawn anyway, so it's not really all that big of an issue. However, Carrie has a slightly harder time with this than Reinhardt. I said this during Reinhardt's playthrough, but in Legacy of Darkness, when you're playing as Reinhardt, the enemies in that first hallway are replaced by the three-headed Cerberuses, which are easier to fight as Reinhardt, to be fair, but they also despawn when you are holding the magical nitro, so you don't have to deal with them during the nitro puzzle. Carrie, in the meantime, has the enemies that were originally there during Castlevania 64, which are the skeletons on motorcycles. It's the only time they appear during the main campaign, which is interesting because they suddenly make a lot more sense. Wait, no, I'm misremembering. In vanilla Castlevania 64, the skeletons on motorcycles actually appear during the first boss against that giant fuck-off skeleton. But it's the only time they appear in the main campaign here. Carrie gets to fight the skeletons on motorcycles while she's carrying the nitro. Which is not fun, especially since one of them has a Gatling gun and can just snipe you and blow you up if you're unlucky. But yeah, so Carrie has a harder time with the nitro puzzle because at the very end of carrying the nitro to the second wall, she has to deal with those fucking skeletons. And it's a pain in the ass, I'm not gonna lie. They actually got me the first time I tried.
Camera.
Don't worry, the lock-on knows where the enemy is.
I'm glad somebody does.
You don't.
You actually get a neat visual indicator of where your lock-on is going because the lock-on always starts on your character's model and moves toward the enemy that it's going to lock on to. So you get to see the lock-on actually travel to the enemy even if it's off-screen, which lets you know that the lock-on is working even if you can't see the enemy. Very useful for Carrie, since she can actually and does often attack enemies that she can't see. There's a whole boss fight in the Tower of Science that we're not going to physically see because she kills it while it's off screen. I can stand on this. Old 3D games are great.
I love 3D games where you can stand on shit you're not supposed to. Oh, man. So this is something about Castlevania in general that I don't really get. Because you were in a chapel not too long ago where the stained glass dudes came and fought you. And there's chapels in lots of the Castlevania games. I just never really got why Dracula would put a chapel in his castle when he's an abomination to God and everything that he holds dear.
Okay, so this wasn't really a story element at this point in the series, but when you get to Lament of Innocence, you actually find out that because Dracula's first wife died to illness while he was away at war, the man swore vengeance on God, and his entire motivation for becoming a vampire in the first place was to defy God's idea of mortality.
Meanwhile, God's like, why do you say fuck me for?
His motivation for going through with it was basically, God says humans should be mortal. Well, if God says that, I'm going to do the fucking opposite. And so he becomes Dracula.
This lone skeleton with the churn is like, fuck me, dude.
Okay, but then that just makes it make even less sense. So, like, if you hate this guy, then why do you have a house of worship in your house?
Because
It's
you're making a mockery of it, you know?
I guess.
Also, I'm not actually sure where he got the castle from. It might have originally been someone else's castle. I'm not even, because that's like one of the questions about Dracula that never gets answered. Like, is it Walter Bernhardt's old castle that he's using? I don't know. Oh, the sidecar always just pops out of existence the moment the motorcycle explodes.
Lament of Innocence is the PS2 game, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so in that game, do they, like, establish who the vampire that made Dracula a vampire was?
The vampire who made Dracula a vampire was himself. He used a magic artifact to absorb the soul of another powerful vampire.
Oh, okay.
There's this whole thing with a crimson stone and an ebony stone, and it's complicated. But it's complicated, and the game never really explains it properly. You have to read the wiki to get it. It's one of the story's failings. But basically, there was a particularly powerful vampire called Walter Bernhardt, who is basically proto-Dracula, and Matthias Konkrist, or however you pronounce that goddamn name, is he sort of orchestrates a whole thing where Walter Bernhardt kidnaps Leon Belmont's betrothed and lures Belmont there. And he does this because he knows Leon will beat him. So he swoops in when Leon beats Walter and steals his soul and becomes an immortal vampire himself.
Was it the Crimson Stone specifically? I think was like the MacGuffin of that game.
Yeah.
So Dracula tricks the Belmonts into killing the guy he wanted to kill so that he could take the reward.
Yeah, and by doing that, I guess he bypassed the whole problem of becoming a subservient thrall to a stronger vampire.
Loopholes. Neener.
He becomes the master of the castle and
Eat my ass, Satan.
fucks off for a couple centuries until he gets married to another woman who resembles his first wife. You know, the whole thing with Alucard's mother gets a little stupid complicated when you retroactively said, actually, he loved someone else first. And this was his second love.
That's not that uncommon for that time, though. Like, you
Well,
know.
yeah, I know. It's just like in the original game, in the original like lore, Lisa.
Oh yeah, that's how he like started to try to kill humanity, was because the humans killed Lisa. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you know, Sonia Belmont breaks lore because Trevor wasn't the first one to fight Dracula anymore. Well, you know, yeah, I'm just gonna say Lament of Innocence breaks lore because Lisa wasn't the first one to marry Dracula anymore. And also Christopher Belmont breaks lore because they had to move Simon Belmont forward 100 years to fit him. And yeah, I'm still bitter about that stupid double standard this fan base has about Sony.
Oh my god, like this conversation's years removed from it, so it does not matter. It shouldn't hold any relevancy, but it was particularly damning when I was doing research on Sonia Belmont, just to see like what fan reaction or response was to her game declared non-canon, and the amount of dipshits I've read that think that no, it should be only a male Belmont that should have the vampire killer specifically.
So it was
like,
just blatant sexism. It wasn't like, oh, you're just okay. All right.
Well,
yeah.
there is some logic to that, but only logic in the sense that Lament of Innocence made it afterward that
Yes.
the vampire killer has the soul of Leon's betrothed in it. Like,
Okay.
but that's just to enhance the whip, though.
Yeah,
it
but,
doesn't
like-
mean only men can rock it.
Yeah, like why can't a woman use that anyway?
it's like, you know, if you like do some mental gymnastics, you can say, well, the whip would only work for like someone who reminds the whip of her former husband to be, but you know, even that's just really flimsy logic. But you know,
Yeah, especially considering that all of the Belmonts, you know, by necessity have kids with someone that's not the whip. So, I think that the whip would be a little bit annoyed about that. Especially if it's used in some of the ways I think it probably does end up getting used.
It's just, I find it kind of like dazzling that people reacted to, like people have to reach for a story element that didn't exist at the time in order to say that the story was bad. And when they try to explain how lore breaking the game was at the time of its release, they have to reach for dates. They have to reach for like Trevor's manual listed birthday or something. And it's like, the series didn't have a problem retroactively changing that shit with other games. That's why we have Christopher Belmont in the first place. Why does it matter that Sonya does it too? It's like the entire Game Boy series up to that point had to like change the dates related to Simon and Trevor in order to work. But it's only Sonya that you have a problem with? Christopher, she's not even the worst of the three. That honor belongs to the first Christopher Belmont game. Jesus.
Isn't Sonya's game the only good Game Boy one?
No.
They're all pretty bad.
Belmont's Revenge. No. Belmont's Revenge is legit good.
Belmont's Revenge is it was good. It was inventive. It even had a pretty decent story element there. But
which Belmont's that one?
That's the second Christopher.
That's
Belmont.
Chris again. Yeah.
Christopher Belmont got 2 games. The interesting thing about Belmont's Revenge is that it actually involves Christopher Belmont's son, who is about to inherit the vampire killer whip. But he gets kidnapped and sort of possessed by Dracula, so you have to rescue him, which involves fighting him. So it's the actual... I think it's like the only mainline game in which you get a Belmont on Belmont duel.
No, Jonathan isn't a Belmont. He's what the hell?
Yeah, I was gonna say Jonathan. I mean, I know what you're talking about, but Jonathan isn't a Belmont. It's a whip wielder versus another whip wielder, if that counts. But it's not Belmont versus Belmont.
Do you have to use the vampire killer whip to fight Richter?
No, you don't.
I thought you had to kill Richter in order to unlock.
You have to defeat Richter in order to unlock the full power of the vampire killer, but you don't. You're not using the vampire killer on Richter. You're using cream pies.
Yeah, you start with the vampire killer whip in that game, but it's statistically pathetic until you power it up by fighting Richter. You do get other whips though.
Do they establish whether or not Jonathan because it's been forever since I played that game. Does Jonathan effectively resign himself to destroying his body by using the whip?
No, when he defeats Richter Belmont, he gains the right to use the whip properly without sacrificing his life essence to do so.
Okay.
No.
No?
No, because it is established in that game early on. It does not matter if you are not of Belmont lineage. The vampire killer will kill you. Regardless.
I'm pretty sure I remember that Jonathan didn't have to deal with that problem, but yeah, I might be misremembering.
Well, Jonathan didn't want to use the vampire killer because it killed his dad. And he just kind of holds on to it reluctantly because I'm supposed to, because of that fucking Nostradamus prediction. But, the stakes get higher, and obviously as the game progresses, it's like, if I want to stand a chance, I do have to unlock the power of this thing.
From what I remember, Jonathan didn't actually know that the vampire killer was what killed his dad until Lecard told him.
Oh, that's right. Eric's ghost tells him, yes.
Yes, so he didn't actually know what happened to John Morris until mid-game. Or late
Does
game.
any of this matter, though, when you can just use Charlotte's magic spells to kill Dracula anyway?
They have cast times, to be fair. Jonathan's definitely more direct. I can't wait to go back to that game, actually. I love Portrait of Ruin. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but I love that game.
Portrait of Ruin is pretty great, yeah.
It's good. I just found it a little bit more... I found the gameplay loop a little bit more repetitive, just because... I really liked the soul system in Aria of Sorrow, and in Bloodstained too. That's part of why I love Bloodstained, where that's just an upgraded version of the soul system from Aria in that.
I guess if I have a problem with Portrait of Ruin, it's simply that Charlotte becomes a little too overpowered a little too quickly, and the game becomes a bit too easy without you really having to work for it the way you do in the other Metroidvanias.
It's also like wonky. Like there's definitely wonky bits to that game for sure. If you want a good time, go look up the Fund the Charity Room Portrait of Ruin playthrough. John did, and it's a 9 out of 10. It's great.
Don't even remember that playthrough, to be fair.
All right, puzzle solved.
What did you even have to do?
You had to select the correct numbers to put the statues on the planetary positions that were noted by the 3 statues that you could find throughout the level. The solution is 248. Very easy to remember.
So literally doubling upon itself.
Yeah.
Every single time.
Yeah.
Is there relevancy? Is that part of a theme? Or is it just the random assorted numbers?
It's 3 planets that align with the 3 goddesses, so it's like an astrological, mythological kind of puzzle. But
Venus is Aphrodite, Mars is Aries, and Neptune is
well, you know, assigning goddesses to 2 of those 3 planets are a little bit weird because they definitely like align with male gods in the Roman and Greek pantheons. So,
Venus is the feminine god, though.
I guess we're running on Sailor Moon logic here. But, you know, I get the feeling that the Sailor Moon logic was intentional, too, because the Japanese audiences would definitely be more familiar with that than Greek mythology.
Maybe. But also, like, is it a thing only with Carrie? Because then at the end of the day, it's probably...
The Castle Center was a level that we went through with Reinhardt, too.
Okay, all right.
The only... Like Cornell and Henry don't have to deal with this level, but Reinhardt and Carrie do. It's, okay. So, wait, camera, please.
And why do you have to do that puzzle again in the first place?
To dispel the magical barrier over the second wall so that you can blow it the fuck up.
Oh, okay. Oh, God. Now I'm just imagining that there's probably a kid somewhere who thought that, oh, you need the thing to blow it up, and then probably did the whole... magical nitro thing and got it all the way down there, activated the cutscene, blew it up, and nothing happened.
Well, you don't have to imagine. People have definitely done that. I don't have much sympathy for them because there's a big glowing glyph on the wall, but you know.
Well, I guess their thought was that, oh...
Looking at all these Castlevania 64 playthroughs and Lewis is, idiot!
I mean, they established that magical nitro is a big damn explosion, though, so...
Yeah, as the good book says, you can destroy the magical wall of nitro.
Yeah,
yeah, that's true.
As the good book also says, if you look at all 3 statues, you need to dispel the magical barrier first. So...
Oh, damn, he's got a point.
Look, I get that some people find Castle Center to be annoying with all the backtracking and stuff, but it is still nowhere close to Cornell's villa. I'm just like, Jesus Christ.
I mean... So this is just a philosophy thing I have with games. Every game has that one level. Well, okay, not necessarily true. Lots of games have that one level. You know, the really annoying one that nobody likes to do. Even, the best games of all time often have that one level. So that one level, I think, needs to be pretty goddamn bad to ruin the entire experience for you. You know, like either game breaking or you get stuck there or it's just so miserable you don't want to play the game anymore. Like it's got to be pretty damn bad. Like if it's just kind of like and the rest of the game is good after that, then like I can put it behind me. But like I don't know, maybe some people just have less tolerance for that kind of shit than I do. I don't know.
Well, I can understand one level being a major drawback of this particular game because it's so short. And, a significant amount of your playtime is going to be in the Castle Center or Cornell's villa on your first playthrough. But like, when you're so when I don't want to say obsessed, but when you're so hung up on that one level, that when the game re-releases with another even worse that one level, and you ignore that in order to continue complaining about the first that one level, it does kind of like get my goat a little, you know.
So I'm just thinking about a different game that's actually bad. The first one that comes to my mind is Shadow the Hedgehog, because Shadow the Hedgehog has several that one levels. It's got the one with the bombs. It's got the one with the perfect chaos. You know, it's got the one where you're zipping around the energy things trying to find the other bombs.
And chances are you'll have to play most of those that one levels multiple times.
Yes, exactly. And it's just like, okay, it's not just the fact that there's the one annoying perfect chaos level or the one annoying bomb level or, you know, so on. It's that the entire experience isn't good, and those really bad levels, the exceptionally bad levels, kind of crystallize the other issues. Here it just sounds like you're playing the same game you were before, and it's a little bit more cryptic, and there's more backtracking than usual. So it's like, you're still playing the same game, and if you like the base mechanics, it should still be fine. It's just, you know, more annoying, which is kind of like the Water Temple from Ocarina of Time, where it's just like the rest of the game, but more annoying.
Okay. I'm going to stop you there, because the Water Temple, apart from some annoying menu fiddling to change your items around a little too often, is actually a really damn good dungeon.
Yeah, well, I mean, I agree.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is, a lot of people don't like it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lewis. Like, I think that people have been overselling the Water Temple being bad for years. But
look, if you play the Water Temple in the 3DS version, where there's less menu fiddling, you lose that pacing lag, and the dungeon really gets to shine. I recommend going through it. It's pretty great.
What's a better example from a Zelda game of like a dungeon that's just actually dog shit?
I mean, Great Bay comes close at points.
I like Great Bay a lot more than Water Temple.
Oh, really?
Not Ocarina of Time. Yeah. But that's also because I enjoy Majora's Mask more than Ocarina of Time. So there's a bit of a bias on it.
The thing is, I can't really think of any genuinely bad dungeons in Zelda, just lackluster ones. Like in Tears of the Kingdom, they crafted this beautiful fucking puzzle box for the Fire Temple, and then gave you the ability to just casually fly past all the puzzles they made. What the fuck?
What was the name of the Sky Temple in Twilight Princess?
Oh, I think it's just the Sky Temple.
Temple in the Sky, or something like that. City in the Sky, or some other shit.
Yeah, that one's really slow.
That place gives you the double claw shot, and I'll always love it for that. But that dungeon...
Which dungeon again?
The one with the double claw shot.
The one that gives you the double claw shot.
Yeah, but which dungeon is that? I'm drawing a blank.
I think it's the one in the sky, but we're blanking on the name.
The Sky City with Uku. Oh god, yeah, you're right. I don't think that's a bad dungeon, but
it's not one of the best. It's definitely lesser, but Twilight Princess also has the justification of also having some of the best dungeons in the series, so being lesser still means you're not bad. I can think of a bad Zelda dungeon, though. Link to the Past, the stupid one with the worm dude who knocks you off the top and then you have to start the boss fight all over again.
Tower of Hera.
Fuck that one.
That's also a bad dungeon and more just a bad boss fight.
Well, it's funny because that dungeon is also really short, too.
Yeah, well, it's short if you can beat the boss. If not, you knock down 3 floors, you have to walk back up and fight the boss from full health again.
You know, that boss annoyed me enough that I decided to take a break from my first attempt to play through Link to the Past, and I just never got back around to it because that boss kind of like got to me.
So here's the thing: they know how infamous it is too, because the super boss at the end of the trial dungeon in Link Between Worlds is a harder version of that guy. So they know.
To me, the Zelda dungeon that sucks more than any other is the one in Phantom Hourglass you have to revisit after every other major dungeon in the game. Because you have to go through it over and over and over again, and it's just not very good. It's just really kind of bland to go through.
I love the Imprison so much.
Yeah, the Imprison doesn't help either.
They brought that son of a bitch back in Link's Awakening, too, but he doesn't have anything to knock you into there, so he's just kind of annoying.
Well, in Skyward Sword, the Imprison is just a boss fight you fight 6 times. It's not there's no dungeon associated.
It's 3 times, I think, to be more accurate, but...
Yeah, he's this big, the Imprison is just this big motherfucker you snap at his toes a few times and he's dead, right?
Yeah, basically that.
Yeah, I don't like that. That was kind of lame. I mean, it wasn't like bad in the sense that it was annoying. I just didn't like the boss fight.
I don't think they upped the ante or make it interesting enough to justify 3 different encounters.
I thought it got old halfway through the first encounter, to be honest.
Because the idea is that he's slowly breaking out of his prison and getting stronger each time, right? But the fight's basically the same each time.
Skyward Sword is so awkward to talk about because, like, it has some really strong dungeon design.
I like the dungeons in Skyward Sword.
Like all throughout, but everything else just has blemishes all over.
Fuck the overworld, love the dungeons. That's kind of where I'm at with Skyward Sword.
What overworld?
You know, the sky, fly through it.
Well, we'll do it eventually.
Yeah, I called dibs on recording that way back when it was still on the Wii and just never got around to it. Now that I have the HD collection, I'll do it eventually. Not until after Echoes of Wisdom, though. But the thing about Skyward Sword that's interesting to me is that it's like just dungeons on top of dungeons. Like the entire game is dungeons. Even
because technically, like the 3 major overworlds that you visit, like on the surface, are dungeons in of themselves. You're right. It's just that I think the core dungeon though is where the game really shines. I think I'm just bitter because you have to essentially play the game twice, for lack of a better.
You also have to do the first dungeon twice for some reason.
There's way too much goddamn padding.
It's I wonder what the development for Skyward Sword was like how long they had.
So the Wiimote isn't working. Fuck.
Yeah, like how much of that, you know, because the Wii Motion Plus didn't come out till like what 2009 or 10.
2011.
2011,
Mm-hmm.
Really? It didn't come. So yeah, so they were probably developing that game in tandem with the Wii Motion Plus also being developed. So
I get the feeling that they only discovered that things could interfere with the Wii Motion Plus while they were doing that presentation at what was it, E3? I think it was E3.
Yeah, it was
E3 where the Skyward Sword demo didn't work.
Yeah, where Miyamoto himself got up on stage to demonstrate the controls and they didn't work. How embarrassing.
That was one of their last in-person E3s as well.
Yeah.
So we had that presentation to thank for the Nintendo Direct. You know, good on you, Skyward Sword.
I think it was the one after that, like the one where the Wii U was first getting shown, because I remember it was a very funny presentation, because the first thing they showed was Pikmin 3, which was awesome. I was so hyped for that. And then you think, oh, that's the first thing they're showing. That's gotta like set the tone for everything else that's coming after. And then it's just like they keep showing stuff, and you just get more and more disappointed the more you watch.
The more nothing will be lower than that one year during the Wii when they showed Wii Music and what's her name snowboarding. Yeah,
2008, I think. It was 2008, 2009 was the Wii Music E3.
So yeah, you see, part of I think if you watch that in like out of context, you'll be like, okay, this isn't bad. This is bad, but, you know, whatever. You have to remember that this is following the hype cycle for the Wii where Mario Kart Wii had just came out, Smash Brothers Brawl had just come out, Mario Galaxy and Metroid Prime 3 had come out, you know, the fall before. So, like, Nintendo was on a hot streak, and people were really excited to see what was coming next. And then what you got was Animal Crossing City Folk, which, okay, Animal Crossing wasn't as big at the time, but, you know, there's an audience for that. Miyamoto drew a drawing of Zelda. They said Pikmin 3 exists, and then they showed Wii Music.
And then they got Shaun White snowboarding.
Yeah, it sucked. It was really bad.
Okay. So before the boss is done, I wanna mention something that I actually didn't know while recording this. You can actually specifically take out this boss's legs to stun it and leave it on the ground and defeat it faster that way. So that's neat. I didn't actually know that they'd paid that much attention to detail when designing this boss.
How do you aim for the feet though?
It's pretty metal that you burn off its skull and then you just see the skeleton. Like that's pretty cool. I have to say.
You can target the different specific body parts when you're attacking the enemy. So you have to pay attention to what part of the enemy that you're locking onto. Is like right now it's on the
torso, yeah.
Yeah, but if you attack the rear and take out its back legs, the boss will end up on the ground and not able to run around.
You have to hurt them more than what you have now because it's still moving even though the whole skin's gone.
Oh yeah. Well, this is the Undead Behemoth, so it's always like that's kind of its thing. It's always been a rotting giant thing that moves in spite of that ever since it first appeared in Rondo of Blood.
Oh, this guy's in Rondo of Blood?
Yeah, it chases you through one of the early levels and then runs into a wall and explodes.
Okay, I still have not played
Fucking
Rondo
idiot.
of Blood at this point. Which I guess I should at some point. I'm not as attached to the original classic Castlevania games, but I guess I should do it eventually.
It's still my standard for Classicvania. But Super Castlevania 4 comes really close because that game has better control.
Have they ported it to anything modern, or is it still...
They're part of the anniversary, the Requiem collection. I think that's on
Okay.
PS4 and Steam.
Yeah, it's not
Or
on
is it?
Steam.
No, it's
just-
PS4. Yeah, it's Sony only.
It's PlayStation exclusive because it's running on a PSP emulator. Sony, I think, helped port the thing, so it's been stuck in Sony exclusive limbo ever since, and that's why people keep whining every 5 minutes that we don't have another modern port of Symphony of the Night.
We don't have a Symphony of the Night on Steam, do we? That's
Or Switch, or anything. It's just...
No, the only Symphony of the Night port that wasn't a Sony port, as far as modern remasters and stuff go, is the Xbox Live Arcade version, which might still be available on modern Xbox, but it's just a port of the original PlayStation 1 version. So if you actually want the new translation, like I do, then you're out of luck. I realize I'm in the minority there because everyone likes their Narm charm, but
I don't hate the retranslation. I just I do find that it loses some of its cheesiness because it's taken more seriously.
I really disagree with that. This game was super cheesy, and that was the fun thing that comes up with stuff like Symphony of the Night.
Oh yeah, but that's because you don't have a soul, Lewis.
No, I just want my story to care about itself a little, I don't want to be reminded that the developers spent $5 on voice actors who were underpaid and suck at their job.
I'm not going to disagree entirely. It's just that, especially now in today's climate, if you want the best interpretation of it, you just watch the Netflix show. So whether or not the original game is the original audio or the PSP audio is just kind of a moot point for me.
Well, I'm big on the experience. I like to be in the game, and stuff like that takes me out of the game. That's just me, though. I realize I'm a minority.